Morning Matters Extra. Joining me this week, Fresno Unified Superintendent Bob Nelson. How are you, sir?
Very good, Alexon. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. You know, we've been talking about how Trustee Terry Slatic has been censured, but what hasn't been talked about is how much the investigations are costing. It's right around $110,000 to this point. Has it been worth it?
Well, I think it's important for the public to understand what the full story is. I mean, one of the things that he campaigned on was an issue around transparency. So to some degree, whatever you can do to gain the greatest degree of transparency, we need to do that on behalf of the public.
Will there be more investigations along the way?
There's still another one ongoing at current, and I'd like to assume that we're not going to do this indefinitely, but I think there is one, like the most namely being the Bullard Cheer incident is still being investigated at current, and that will have an associated cost. Those numbers that have been floating around don't necessarily take into consideration the time of people that have been supporting in this scenario, but suffice to say, a lot of resources have gone into this whole scenario around the investigatory process.
You know, Terry Slatic has also brought up something that he says is disturbing, and he also says the school district has turned a blind eye to, and that is there is a number or a very large percentage, as he calls it, that are graduates from Fresno Unified that have a GPA less than 2.0. There hasn't been, the numbers haven't been released, but what do you say to an accusation of that?
Well, I mean, quite honestly, I guess I would ask the question, have you ever had a family discussion about whether or not you can pass a class with a D, right? It's nothing ideal to finish with a grade point average, which is under a C average, but invariably, and it has been since time immemorial, people can pass with a D. We don't want that for our kids, and you know, it limits your ability potentially to be employed if you have a straight D average, but it is the minimum passing level. That's the case for us, that's the case for Central, that's the case for Clovis. To say that that's some sort of really magnanimous, large news story is really kind of an overstatement of the reality. It's been a long time that you could pass a class with a D. It's not good. We don't want that for our kids. We want them to do better, but it is a passing grade.
You know, I want to move to what we've been seeing in this country, and something that a lot of parents, including myself, I have a 6-year-old, that it's our worst nightmare now.
Absolutely.
And that is a school shooting.
Yeah.
It's happened at a Walmart, it's happened at nightclubs, it's happened at a garlic festival, it's happened, we know, at numerous schools around the country. Given the recent culture and the recent climate of these school shootings and shootings in public places, is the district doing something different this year to make sure there's more protection for students? So
we actually started last year in the fallout from the Parkland shooting, which was devastating, and it's horrific, and we don't want that for our community, and we don't want to be thinking that will ever happen in Fresno, but we can ill afford to act like this kind of stuff doesn't occur. So last year we had a comprehensive, every staff member engaged in run, hide, fight training in collaboration with the Fresno County Sheriff's Office. That was hard. People are like, well, I mean, it was fairly graphic. People don't want to think in terms of what you would need to do in the case of an active shooter, but we can't bury our heads in the sand. So we leaned into that on behalf of every staff member. Again, that we're taking that this year to the kids, where we're engaged in if you see something, tell something training in collaboration with our police partners, which is, I mean, we rely upon the eyes and ears of the people that are there to kind of help us respond in the earliest possible manner.
You say see something, say something, right? I mean, that's been one of those new tactics and that new saying. Yep. But is there more policing being done on social media? So
obviously we track that on a regular and ongoing basis, and we're actually leaning in light of the very visible blackface incident. We started a program of talking to our kids about responsible social media use and tracking that. People may not be aware that every one of our mainline high schools and our middle schools all have a uniformed officer on campus, and our elementary schools, for the most part, have connectivity with the RISE program with the police office too, just to make sure that we're getting kids off on the right foot and that they have a positive relationship with authority figures in the police. We're working collaboratively with Chief Dyer, and have been for a while, to investigate social media threats. I mean, it's really damaging, and it does a lot of harm.
I want to finish with this, and I just got about 30 seconds, really.
Sure.
The Raisin City superintendent and his surprise active shooter drill. That was a national story because of what happened. I know Fresno Unified is incredibly much bigger. I get that. But your thoughts on something like that?
I think it's ill-advised to create a situation. I mean, quite honestly, you created a situation potentially which was really dangerous for the people involved. I think we can be thankful that it didn't turn out worse than it in fact did. Frightening kids is never a great tactic. Like I wouldn't lead with, you know, traumatizing children and families unbeknownst to them. So I don't condone it. We wouldn't do that or practice that. It is important to be prepared, but it's also equally as important to make sure you're conscious about how to prepare kids in the safest and most responsible way.
All right, Superintendent
Appreciate
Nelson,
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, Sunday Morning Matters Extra on yourcentralvalley.com.